Okay, hello, protectors. Welcome again to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Thursday night, here we are. Coach Dustin, Coach Brad are with me. And listen, tonight I want to talk about, I'm going to share with you guys how I discovered the difference between lessons learned versus lessons earned. It's going to be a great conversation. Hang with us. Back in 30 seconds. Attempted murder to weaponizing my mind and body, mastering the tool of violence so that I can protect myself and my family from violent criminal assault, and how for the past 30 years I've been helping good people just like you do the same. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. All right, okay, everybody, we're back. Listen, I said that what I want to do is I want to share how I discovered the difference between lessons earned and lessons learned. So lessons learned versus lessons earned. Okay, those are two totally different experiences. But the way that I actually want to relate it to you guys, or the way that I'd like to talk about it, and I'll be honest, it's a bit, I'm a bit not uncertain, but it's more of an emotional conversation, I guess. I don't have a preset context in my mind, and here's the reason why. Because as most people, like, again, depending on when you listen to this podcast, as it stands right now, it's the Thursday. Obviously, we just came out of the long weekend. And in the past long weekend, September long weekend, there was a mass stabbing that occurred. And it started on the James Smith Cree Nation. And it was two suspects. And there was the spree, the stabbing spree has left 10 people dead. That's, 10 families devastated, 10 lives forever altered, obviously. 18 people injured. There's really 12 people that died. The two suspects both died. People might not understand, say, well, who gives a fuck about them? But you got to remember, they also have a family. And I'm just saying the ripple effects of violence and destruction, it destroys everything and everyone on every side and however you look at it. But in addition to not only one of the largest, sprees in Canadian history, that have 10 people dead, which some were singled out and others were random. So you have this mix, and it happened over 13 different locations. But also, again, this is Thursday. I think was it last night, Wednesday or Tuesday? It might have been. They had a stay in order place for the north side of Edmonton, a neighbor in the north side of Edmonton, where there was another 3 people stabbed. Nothing to do with the suspects connected to the James Smith Cree Nation, and it was just another random guy. And so there was one of the 3 that was stabbed was killed, was murdered. The other 2 were women. One was a male, 2 were women. They are lucky enough they're in hospital. They're not lucky enough. They're lucky enough to have they have serious but non-life-threatening injuries, is what I'm trying to say. They're lucky enough to survive it. And so as I was kind of again thinking about what my topic, kind of what I wanted to talk about, this was just predominantly in my mind. And I thought, well, how do we address this? And I thought, oh, okay, there's a couple ways that we could do this. Do we talk about knife defense? Because, as this stuff happened, I had a private this morning. And of course, the topic of knife defense comes up because we're referencing the spree that started in Saskatchewan. And he lives in Saskatchewan. And as a matter of fact, the 2 suspects, where my client lives, 2 doors down, 2 houses over, one of his close friends lives there. The police showed up the other day at his front door asking for his home security footage. And he's kind of thinking like, sorry, I got a hair in my eye. He's kind of thinking like, well, why do you want that? And when they started rolling the tape, they were very specific this night, this time. They saw the 2 suspects in their vehicle sitting parked in his driveway. Like not in the driveway, but right in front of his house. And they sat there for, I think it was over half an hour. And so my client is like, this is 2 doors down. And the timing of it was they had already murdered the first group. They had already committed the murders. So, here he is parked. So, I mean, you can see how it all connects, right? Of course. And it hits close to home, and people think, geez, these guys were, breaking into homes. They were, they're on a spree. And so he starts talking about knife defense and asking some questions about it and stuff, and he's trained with us for a while. So it's not like he doesn't understand fundamental strategies for knife defense. But what I thought we could share is, you have this murder spree that's going on. You have the attacks that happened in Edmonton, and I said that I'd talk about the difference between experiences learned and experiences earned. Well, let's just clarify this real quick. An experience that you learn is when somebody teaches you something. So again, tonight we could sit here and say, hey, listen, here's what you do. Like if I just sit here and say, here's how to defend against a knife. Here's how to blah, 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 whatever. The only thing that would be accomplished in that is, me speaking from almost like a podium saying, let me bestow upon you information that you need so that you can learn this information and thereby hopefully prevent this type of crisis or this type of injury happening to you, right? But the problem with lessons learned is that they're not really rooted, right? You definitely, we all learn things, but there is a massive difference between when you learn something and when you earn something. And what I mean by that is experience. Somebody teaching our child about the dangers of a fire, let's say. They're out camping. Hey, don't run by the fire. Don't run by the fire. It's hot. You'll trip, you fall in, you get blah, blah, blah. Now, kids are smart enough and heard enough, and as they grow and they can get close and feel it, and they can learn that lesson. But there's something called one trial learning. You know what I mean? You trip, you fall, your hand goes in the fire, you trip, you fall, you go close to the fire, an ember shoots out, lands in your lap, hits you on the hair, your hair, you know what I mean? Like you can earn an experience as well. One trial learning, kid touches the hot stove, pulls a hand back, 3rd degree burns, 2nd degree burns. It's like, holy fuck. Like they're earning an experience. Now, clearly I'm not suggesting that it's like, in order for me to understand how to defend against a firearm and the dangers of, being shot, I have to get shot, right? But there's lots of people that have been shot. And those people have earned an experience. And they can extrapolate from that experience. I was the victim of an attempted murder. Well, that's different. I earned a lot of experience. So my truth when it comes to what I think about martial arts and the way that martial arts and self-defense is being taught and being trained is very different than somebody who's just learned it their whole life. I've experienced, I know you can talk to your blue in the face. I know what violence is. I've experienced violence. Right? And we talked about this kind of on our last podcast where we talked about your truth, like, the I. This is what I experienced. This is my truth. This is how I've solved the problem. But today, again, it's kind of connected. But I thought, how can we offer something? I mean, this is what our tribe does. This is what our community is about, is helping weaponize people so that they can protect themselves and family from violent criminal assault. Well, that's exactly what happened on a massive scale. And so I thought that I would just, kind of set a tone for us to have some conversations. And the continuity might be a little bit all over the place. But I want to just do a bit of a deep dive on what are some of the lessons that we can earn by examining what has happened. Because hopefully people will understand this, but you don't have to be stabbed, you don't have to be shot, you don't have to have had somebody try to murder you to earn those experiences. What you have to do is not look at it intellectually, like don't try to learn from it, try to earn from it. Piggyback their experiences, make it real, look into it. We have a saying, and this is maybe where I'll let you guys jump in because we use this saying a lot, and I think you guys will think back, it was probably a decade ago, that we did one entire combat school, 3 full days, intense days, and we worked on one concept that I offered to you guys that I said would change your whole outlook on training, and it was how to utilize the phrase or the 2 words, never again. And we broke that down and we made that part of our perceptual filter. And we can get into that, and I'd like you guys to share what I'm talking about from your perception and maybe teach that to the people that are listening and how they can use it. But that never again became an impetus. It became a perceptual filter that allowed you to look into the world and take hard-earned experiences of other people that have suffered atrocities, and filter that back in and use that so that you weren't just learning information as you went along, you were earning experiences, blood tested experiences from other people. And that's a massive distinction that I think if we can help people that are listening that genuinely want to be their family's protectors, ready, real, resilient, relentless, and ruthless, be able to defend themselves and their family, this will be gold for you. And so I want to make sure by the end of the podcast, that's my goal, is that we've helped people not just come to us to learn shit, but I want to show you how you can earn experiences without having to suffer firsthand fucking trauma, because we can do it, right? So I don't know, give me your feedback and thoughts off where I'm heading with this and what initially resonates with you, and then we'll just kind of let the conversation flow from there.
I'll say one thing, and it's in a way it's a bit of a side tangent, but at the same time it's exactly on par with what you're talking about. But the one thing that hit me that I kind of wanted to point out to people is time is both a blessing and a curse. And what I mean by that is when you always think like something bad happens in someone's life, there's always people around you who say, well, time heals. Time heals. Time will pass. You'll get over it. You'll accept it. You'll recover. Whatever needs to happen, it'll happen because of time. And that side of it is a blessing because yes, time will come to pass. You will recover whatever needs to be done. But it's also a curse because we easily forget all these lessons that can be earned. And that's kind of the thing I wanted to point out is you have a tragedy like what happened, in Saskatchewan. And it's a great opportunity to spend time doing what we're doing, breaking things down, deep diving it, really unpacking like, well, yeah, what is that? What are the ripple effects of violence in people's lives? And how could that impact me, my family, my circles? And I think it's not getting caught forgetting too quickly because you don't want to have these things happen so that you have a constant reminder like, oh yeah, I got to make sure I'm doing this and doing that, and you know what I mean, like you don't always have to rely on tragedy to keep you on point. So I think as much as it's a blessing that time does allow you to heal, it's a curse too because you can quickly lose the lessons that you've earned, by sort of studying this stuff.
Okay, Brad, do you want to throw something in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the first kind of words, and I think it's words, but that comes to mind when I think about this and the conversation that we're having right now is ownership, right? Taking those experiences, understanding them, having empathy in those experiences, putting yourself in those situations, and just really owning that experience and unpacking that experience that as if it was your own, because that's where, for me, is where that never again really resonates with me. Because if I think about experiences that may not be mine in that real world, that real life, but I could use my imagery and put myself in there and create and replicate that experience and own it as if it was mine. Then that allows me to really have the power of that never again, because that's a lot of fuel that I don't need to actually live that experience physically. I could live it through my imagery and just attach that experience and the power of owning and earning that experience. It even kind of reminds me of what we just talked about during the 5-day, where we all talked about our truths. You shared your truth, Dustin shared his, I shared mine. And at the end, we all kind of talked about how we could take everybody else's story and have that apply to us, even knowing that we haven't actually lived it the way that, like, you guys didn't live it through mine and I didn't live it through yours, but I could put myself in the situation and recreate that and take ownership of it as if it was mine to get that earned experience from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Brad totally. And just the one word that hit me as you were talking to just kind of almost help people summarize everything you just said is empathy. Like that's the key. Like to be able to take on somebody else's experience and still earn that lesson is empathy. You have to be able to, like you just said, visualize and put yourself in their shoes and really unpack all those feelings and emotions. And when you can connect with that empathy, that's what allows you to share in somebody else's experience.
And I think the study of what we've been doing for the last decades, of really studying violence and understanding and really accepting what violence is, as opposed to, because I think it's very easy for people. Well, I would just do this, and that's like, well, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about owning an experience, not just being like, well, I could have did this. It's not. You're not looking at it in terms of an actual technique side of things, right? To own that experience, it's more digesting what violence is, and overlaying that over for me as imagery and such.
Okay. All perfect, right? But let's break it down, because I think a lot of people might have been lost in some of the gaps in that, because we know what we're talking about. So let me try to fill in a few holes here and share the actual process. If you think about the term "never again," automatically it makes sense that somebody that has experienced something is the person who's earned the right to say it. So you have people that nearly beat me to death, and none of my self-defense, quote unquote, training works. None of the combative sports stuff works. It's unlike anything that I was ever trained for. None of my instructors clearly understood violence at all, because all that shit. So it led to setting me up for a massive fucking fall. I was probably more vulnerable than if I had no training at all, because if I had no training at all, I would have had no expectations of what would work and what wouldn't work, and what an assault would be like and what it wouldn't be like. But as it stood, I had all these blueprints and all these models and all these expectations, and yet none of them were fucking true. It was like somebody's trained you for, you spend how many years, over a decade, training for a hockey game, and when you show up to your event and you're so confident you're going to win, it's a swimming meet. You're fucked. You got your gear on, your skates on, and you're just fucked. Somebody pushes you in the pool and you're fucked. Okay? You can tell I'm still bitter about it a little bit. But the idea is this. But somebody who's lived through that has that wake up. They go, thank God I fucking survived. I'm alive. I get a chance. I'm emotionally fucked up, mentally fucked up, all this shit, but I'm alive. So there's hope. I can try to figure this shit out. So one of the things that came to me was this thing. I said, I have no idea how, but I will never be that type of victim again. I wasn't saying I'm going to train in something, I'm going to figure something out and be unbeatable. No, I was saying that because I had no idea what to fucking do. I wasn't even playing. I wasn't even in the game. I was a complete and total victim I was 100% helpless, no options, no chance, like it was fucking dead. And I said, never again to that fucking shit. I might die, but I'm not going to die wondering what the fuck was going on. I'm not going to die in the dark, confused about what the fuck is happening to me. So that was when I said never again. Now, I expanded it a bit because I want people to understand when somebody says never again, right? What's that saying? Necessity is the mother of all invention, right? When it's necessary, change will happen. Then you'll create the way. That's fucking bullshit. It's not necessity, it's pain. It's when you get to a point where you go, I'm fucking done with this shit. It's necessary for literally millions of people right now to stop fucking smoking, because they're going to die. What is it? Over 200,000 people a year, probably way more than that now. 200,000 people a year die painful, fucking slow and agonizing deaths from cigarette smoking, from obesity, from drug use. It is absolutely fucking necessary that they stop what they're fucking doing and do something different, yet the change doesn't happen. It's only when they get to a point where the emotional pain, they just go, fuck it. I'm done with this shit, right? And then the emotional shift happens. So never again, first and foremost, the first step in this process is you have to understand the power of these two words and what gets somebody to this point. Because if you're sitting there going, I live in a beautiful home in a beautiful fucking neighborhood. I'm in my mid-40s, mid-50s. I got a beautiful wife. I got beautiful kids. I got a great job. Listen, my life's not perfect, but things are going pretty good. And like I said, I've never experienced violence. Well, you can say the words never again all day fucking long. They don't mean shit to you. So the power only comes from understanding why somebody would say never fucking again. And I can lose. I can be killed. I can be murdered. I fucking get that. But they will never make me a victim again. Ever. Never again. Now, once people connect to that, then you say, listen, understand this. There are, unfortunately, in this world, millions of people that have experienced the thing that is a fear for you, right? Like there has to be some concern. Otherwise, you wouldn't even look into learning how to defend yourself. So there's got to be some concern, some fear, something, a small little ember of a fire smoldering away that you go, what if? Maybe this could happen to me. So what we say is take the words never again, and what you need to do is start doing some research, explore. Find somebody. Find somebody that has suffered this trauma, and it's not hard to do. You look at the 10 individuals that became victims or became the target of and ultimately were murdered by these two individuals. You look at this gentleman that was killed just 2 nights ago. He was out walking his dog with his sister-in-law, and I think there was 2 women that he's walking with, or maybe it was just the one woman. The other one got stabbed in a separate place. But he was out walking with her, his sister-in-law, walking their dog. And as they're walking along, just completely minding their own business, as they walk down a road, sunny, bright out of the bushes, mere feet from them, this guy explodes out of the fucking bushes. Not pontificating, not talking. So we know what? Pure power predator, pure ambush, engaged. Comes flying out of the fucking bushes, grabs the guy and starts fucking stabbing him and dragging him by his hoodie and stabbing him. Now the guy, Brian Berland is his name, as he's being stabbed, he screams out, "Run, Jamie, run," which is his sister-in-law. And she runs. He says, "Run, just get out of here." And so this guy is stabbing him, dragging him around, but he's stabbing him, and she runs. Now he's an absolute fucking hero. Why? Because he saved her life. Because in that moment of panic, she was probably frozen. What the fuck is going on? It's a disconnect. It's surreal to her. But him yelling, which I'm sure was a very strong alpha command at that point, fucking run. You know what I mean? Like, that saved her life. Her husband said, like, if he didn't do that, she probably wouldn't be here. And that's about as accurate as you can get without having a crystal ball, right? Without, you know what I mean? And yet, so there's this complete ambush. Well, we can look at this. But people will hear about it on the news. People will hear us talk about it. And they will feel that. Like, oh, fuck. Can you imagine? Imagine just being out walking your dog, your sister, having a conversation on a beautiful end of summer, early fall night. And all of a sudden, out of fucking nowhere, no warning, just somebody runs at you. The shock of just, what the fuck is this guy? What the fuck is happening? And before you even know, bum, 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 you're being stabbed, you're being pulled, it's hitting you. The reality, it's like a tsunami hitting the beach when people are out getting a suntan. That's the blitz. But then they'll kind of just go, oh man, so tragic. Then the brain looks for a reason to move on. We have that moment of empathy. But really, for most people, I think it's sympathy. They feel the emotions. They feel the loss. They sympathize with how horrific this is. But they don't fully activate empathy. And so they hear it on the news. They hear it on the radio. Many drop off flowers. They take a moment and reflect and just think, oh, God. Like, they feel bad. And then they move forward. The hamster wheel starts turning again. Life's commitments take over. What we suggest is that you look at this and you start tracking, go from the ground zero of just the sympathy of like, oh my God, did you hear about this? Fuck, what's this city coming to? This is crazy. But you got to go past the ground zero and you look at this and go, okay, what was this like? Like, most people never stop for a second to think just from other perspectives. They think about the situation where this guy runs out of nowhere, starts stabbing him. How horrific is that? Well, what about if you put yourself into the sister-in-law for half a second? And like Brad said, you go into the theater of your mind and you use imagery, and now you see yourself in her shoes through her eyes and witnessing, this guy coming out and him stabbing him and attacking him and debasing him and demoralizing him in front of you. And then when you run, How do you feel? How do you feel after? Do you think that there's no guilt? Do you think there's no regret? You think there's no, I wish, like, could I have done something? Could I have helped? Like all this stuff. And then you go to the fact that you go, he had a brother. He has a mother. And then you follow them and you do, like, you research, I read their statements. I follow and I read what the mother is saying and how she's coping, or in this case, she couldn't even talk, it's the aunt, but I literally see it through their perspective. And I have a sister. So it's easy enough for me to go, well, if that was me that was murdered, and then I'm seeing it through her eyes, now I'm living the experience. And you follow this. And you follow this more than just visceral sympathy at the first layer of skin, let's say. You know what I mean? And here's something that I do. I get onto Google Maps. And I zoom in on the location and I see the trees. And I see the proximity from where they're walking to the trees and think, how fast did he transcend? What was the reactionary gap there? How hidden was he? Like, I see the ruse of what he did, how he laid in wait and picked, 30 feet back, the trail was wider. The trail was wider. But he waited till the trail narrowed closer to the trees so he had less distance to sprint. Oh, he's intelligent. The individuals, the two pieces of shit that went on the spree in Saskatchewan that killed 10 people, they were using a ruse, walking up to homes, covering their faces as if they'd say, we've been injured, can you call 911, can you open the door? I'm bleeding, they had the whole elaborate ruse trying to get people to unlock and open the door, and if they did, they ambushed them. And the ones that said, show me your face, let me see the injury, they took off and they ran. Now, they were big enough and strong enough and fucked up enough and determined enough, they probably just could have kicked the fucking door in, but they didn't. Like, what I'm getting at is we follow and investigate, but you're not doing it from a place of learning, you're doing it from a place of emotional connection. And you put yourself into the destruction path. It's like you hear about a tornado ripping through a small town and the damage it did. But when you put boots on the ground and you stand there and you see and you talk to the people, the survivors, and you talk to the people that have faced the destruction, and you do more than just, I'm so sorry, and walk by, and stop being a fucking spectator like it's a zoo and you're on the outside watching the animals. You get into it. And this is the exercise. Now, listen, we go into more detail and share more tools for how to do it. But the core strategy of this is that there is more than enough violence that happens in our world, in our neighborhoods, in your cities, in your country, that you can look at this and you can activate empathy by following the ripple of destruction. And here's what it is. You empathize and connect with the victim. You see it through their eyes. But what I have found is often it's when they go one removed and they follow the mother. What did the mother have to say? What happens to her now? Or it's the sister or the brother or the father or the uncle. But you start, or the children or the nieces or the nephews. This gentleman that was killed, Brian, had nieces and nephews that, like, he was their favorite uncle. What happens in their life? And you step into their shoes and what they're experiencing today. And you follow this ripple of destruction and you get into it and you connect with it. And what starts to happen very quickly is you're going to relate to somebody because you're going to have a shared humanity. You're going to go, I have nieces and nephews and I love playing. I have a sister. I have a brother. My father, that would destroy. And what'll happen is you will, that will imprint on you. And you will come out of that experience, not just having surface stuff that everyone's experiencing from the news, from this, from the 10,000 yard version of it. And you will understand and start saying to yourself, never again. Now, notice I didn't switch that to not to me, That's never going to happen to me. And that can be powerful. That can be a lot of motivational fuel to say, fuck it. I don't ever want to be helpless. Not like that. I don't ever want, like I said, I might fucking die, but I don't want to die confused. I don't want to die bewildered. I don't want to die going, what the fuck? If I die, I'm going to die in the fucking fight. I'm going to die knowing full well what the fuck is going on, and I will be returning fucking fire, period. End of statement. So that never to me is and can be powerful. But I think that power is synergized when you listen, I'm connected to them in a different way. Because I invested to go beyond just like Brad was saying, I'm not just looking at this for the technicalities. Like I was saying, like where did he ambush him at and all that type of stuff and why. That's all important information we can use. But we're trying to earn experience. And you come out of that, and to me, it's like, you know what? You got to understand something. There's evil people. And those evil people, I don't care if they know each other, they don't fucking know each other. They're one side of the world, the other side of the world. They're all together. In my mind, they're tribal. That's their tribe. They're a tribe of fucking predators. It's a tribe of evil people who, if you give them even half a chance, they'll fucking hurt you. They'll kill you, they'll murder you, they'll rape you, they'll destroy everything that is good in this world. And guess what? There is a whole fucking lot of us, probably the majority of us, that are good fucking people. Now, some of us want to weaponize and learn how to protect and rise up. Some of us want to be able to defend, physically defend. And there's other people that will never want to do that, but they're good fucking people. And when we lose good people, that should hurt. When we lose in our society good people, honest fucking people, just living their lives to fucking psychotic, murderous predators who prey on people in our fucking neighborhoods, that should affect us all. That should be like a member of our tribe has been taken. You are a sheep herder and you got a flock of sheep and the wolf came down and ate your sheep. Doesn't matter whether you have 100 sheep or whether you have 100 million sheep. How many are you willing to sacrifice? At what point does it matter to you? You say, well, fuck it. It only matters if it's my flock. You get what I mean? Like there's a bigger connection that I believe we have to have. I feel it. I know you guys feel it. So my point is that why we can easily have empathy. We can easily connect and we can say, fuck this shit never again. And you start to develop something that's very common in warriors, protectors, people in our tribe, people that train the way we train, people that develop the beliefs we have, the mindset we have, that do the things that we do, that live the lifestyle we live. And you start having this thing, when something like this happens, you go, I fucking wish I was there. The rest of the world goes, thank God, not me. Oh, that'll never happen to me. Oh, that happened in this neighborhood. Oh, that happened on that side of town. Or that happened in that province. Oh, not me, nothing to do with me. We see that shit, we start going, listen, I have no desires to be in violence. But at the same time, if violence happens, innocent people, fuck that shit. I'm not going to be the 51-year-old sitting in his car watching this happen and not knowing what to fucking do. So scared that, the only thing you do is 10 minutes after it's over, pick up and dial 911, which is very helpful, but I'm saying delayed responses. Like you start having this, I fucking wish I was there. Why? Because we genuinely believe we can make a difference. Even if the only difference we make is to give him something else to throw that knife at. Now there's two of us. So it's just fucking, stop stabbing him and starts trying to stab me. You know what I mean? Because maybe that one stab that doesn't go his way and comes my way, maybe he lives. Maybe I get to live too. Maybe I don't get to live. But the point is, it's like when the predator shows up, we can't just have a herd of sheep scattering. Because then the wolf just does what he wants to do as long as he wants to do it to as many of us as he wants to do it. And this is that mindset shift that has to happen. The police are not the first responders. They were not the first responders on this scene. The two victims, the two targets, were the first responders. The gentleman that was sitting there and watching the whole thing unfold. And listen, I'm not saying he had time to react. I don't know the circumstance. I wasn't there. I'm just saying he was one of the first responders because he was there. What about the ripple of destruction for him? He held him in his arms, trying to, stay with me as that man's life force left his body. That's a ripple of destruction. He didn't leave his home that day thinking that's what I'm going to see. He might feel like I couldn't get out of my car fast enough. I didn't know what to do. It all happened so fast. Like, you get where I'm going with this, right? So the idea of like the never again, I'm trying to share with you how you own this. But if we pause right here and I throw a question to you guys, which I already know the answer to, and you, but I'd like to hear you comment on it, like, because you've done this process, but does this and can this make a difference for people that have quote unquote never experienced violence? Say, well, I've never experienced it. But you gotta fucking earn it. Don't learn everything. Fucking earn some shit. And if you're guided through how to do that, does this and can this make you more powerful, give you more motivational fuel, make you a better warrior?
Absolutely. And you just said the word that I was going to say, and that is motivational fuel. Like, even just listening to the conversation and being part of the conversation, it's like I could feel that motivational fuel bubbling up for me, right? As you're describing what happened in this man's life and the whole situation that unfolded, it's like I'm sitting here putting myself into that situation, and I could just feel that warriorship, that protector, like the motivational fuel of why I do this and why I've been doing it for as long as I have, really just getting fired up, and it's putting more logs on my fire. Owning those experiences and going through this is just, the more I do that, the more I put logs on my fire, the more I have certainty, conviction, purpose. And that's what I think, owning other people's experiences, I get that sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dustin, anything you want to throw in there?
Yeah, well, I don't know the exact quote, but you say it a lot, but something to the effect of, evil men prevail when good men stand by and do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the feeling I get, and that's sort of the thing I'm always looking to support more. Put more legs under that table, put more logs on that fire, and it's just like the evil will prevail. If like you said, you can't be a sheep herder and have 1,000 sheep and just be like, well, we lost 10. Like, everyone matters. Mm-hmm. And so the more you start to do this process, you can't help but care about each and every one. Mm-hmm. And then whether you know them or don't know them, it doesn't matter, because you just start to have a different level of just compassion for human life. And just, initially it starts maybe with you, and then maybe it expands to your wife and your kids and your friends and whatever. But after a certain point in time, it just expands to just humankind, but the innocent. Do you know what I mean? You use that word tonight. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I have a problem with. Like, I've always been a fan of the underdog. I don't know why I've always been drawn to support the underdog, whether it was watching a sporting event or whatever. Like, I don't know, I've always been excited about the underdog prevailing. And I sort of feel like that's what this is. Mm-hmm. Like, there's way more of us that are, good versus evil. Yeah. But it's just that age-old dichotomy of like, I don't know. I have a real issue with allowing evil to prevail, and I just don't want to be one to stand by and let that happen. So I think this process is just so critical in being able to connect with that, like Brad said, and just develop so much more certainty in it. So,
yeah. Well, I think what you're talking about, obviously, it becomes a core belief. And, and the quote is, all that is necessary for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And it's, again, like, that draws a line within our beliefs, within ourselves, of like, which side are you going to be on? Because all of that is good men, right? Like, evil prevails when good men do nothing. And so that is all of us. Like, that is, a good man is a good man. But a good man that is willing to stand against evil despite the risk. We always say, what truly determines the quality of a protector, what is part of our baseline of when you train, say, listen, and for a lot of people, it seems like a morbid thought, but hopefully you'll understand the power of it. When we start weaponizing people, you're not training for the fight you can win. You're training for the situation that is unsurvivable. And people are like, what? But you're training to get the win in the unsurvivable situation. And if you understand and you break that down, what it means is that you have died, but in your death, you have preserved innocent life. See, the situation, there's lots of situations that aren't winnable. You're just hoping that they're survivable, and they might not be. But, you know, when predators face, you know, warriors, when they face people that are mentally, physically, and emotionally weaponized and prepared, they may not, like, the predator may walk away from the battle, but they're never going to walk away the same. They're not coming out unscathed. And I don't just mean even physically. Because listen, we use an analogy. You can have the top trained special operations soldier in the world, and he steps out of a vehicle, he fast ropes down, he does something, and he catches a stray bullet in the head, and it's game over for him. It does not decrease the quality of warrior that he was. It does not in any way, shape, or form decrease or diminish the sacrifice. Because the man, another warrior like him, is coming down the rope behind him, is coming through the door behind him. And those predators will experience the training, the skill, the knowledge, the wisdom, the commitment, the fucking passion, the conviction of that fallen soldier's actions. They'll feel it as if he's still there because they're the same. You know what I mean? And when you start having this thing, it's like bad people feel resistance. And when you got people that are weaponized, it doesn't matter. Like there's a different fear. It's like, you know, a bad guy might take out a good guy, but in the context and in that engagement, even if the bad guy is physically unharmed, what they have experienced that they cannot, now they have to factor into their equation, is there are people who are willing to face them, you know, claw to claw, fang to fang, predator to predator. And now they start deviating. Let me just give you an example. A lot of active homicides, like school shootings, like Virginia Tech and Columbine and different things like that. The second that these predators who are murdering innocent people on this rampage and spree, the second other wolves in the form of blue clothing, when the good guys show up, when the fucking hunters, the shooters, the predators that operate for the good side show up, these fuckers run, hide, and execute themselves. Because A, they don't want to be captured, they don't want to go to prison, they don't want to suffer, they don't want to get shot and not die. They don't, you know, there's death by police officer, but often what I'm saying is when there is resistance, they shut down. And so the power of one weaponized individual, one weaponized civilian, who are the real first responders, when that speed, surprise, and violence of action, commitment and passion and purpose and clarity and certainty, when that switch fucking flips on, there's no mistaking that. It's like something emanates out of that, and that resistance hits those predators and it changes their behavior. It does something different. Even if physically they didn't fall at that moment. Does that make sense? You're going to get a different sense of how the fucking police are going to hunt you. You're going to get a different sense of how, you know, good people have, like, this is a line. And these people will not accept this. And there will be other people like ready to fucking, you know, 9/11 happens. And then when air traffic and travel finally resumed, if you farted on a fucking plane in the direction of the cockpit, 200 and something passengers, 300 fucking passengers were ready to fucking grab you, tie you, gag you, and beat you with fucking champagne bottles. You know what I mean? Like there was an 83-year-old woman that a guy got up, was having an erratic episode. He wasn't trying to hijack the plane, and people jumped on him. This 87-year-old lady went to the liquor cart, grabbed the fucking liquor bottle. They had him tied up on the ground, and she started smashing him on the head. Why? Because she was like, fuck you. Never fucking again is this shit gonna happen. She wasn't on one of those planes that hit the Twin Towers, that hit the Pentagon, that crashed into the field. But the whole world had one trial learning experience where they're like, fuck this shit. You get on a plane and you start fucking around and you start, if there's even a hint that you're a threat to this fucking aircraft and the people on it, fuck you. You get what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. There was a shift. People started saying, never fucking again. Pull that shit on an airplane and see what happens. The plane might still go down, But those motherfuckers are in for a fight the entire way. True or false? Yes or no? 100%. Well, this is the same thing, isn't it? When you look beyond the fucking 6 o'clock news and you internalize this, you use empathy, you make it personal, like it was someone in your family, someone you cared about, which it is. This is the human tribe. Good, innocent people. You know, how many people out walking their dogs do we have to lose to the wolf before you start getting some of the sheep going, we need more sheep herders. We need more sheepdogs. Right? We need to start fucking weaponizing. I don't have to be a fucking tier 1 special operations soldier, but fuck you, I'm going to learn some shit. I'm going to weaponize my mind, weaponize my body, and I'm going to learn so that when shit happens, if it happens around me, fuck you, predators. You know, never fucking again. I can tell you right now, I could have a one-armed, one-legged, one-eyed, one-eared guy walk in, and if I said, listen, you know, why are you here? And the first 2 words out of his mouth were never fucking again. Shit's happening in my neighborhood. And yeah, listen, I don't have an arm, I don't have a fucking leg, I'm missing one eye, I'm missing one ear, but fuck this shit. I got one leg, I got one fucking arm, and I got one eye, and I got one ear. I'm ready. 10 of those guys, 20 of those guys, 30 of those guys, with that never again empathy, motivational fuel, I'll take them all day long. It doesn't matter. I don't care what your age is. I don't care what your physical capability is. What matters is what we're talking about tonight. And that shit emanates from people that have earned lessons. And you can do that whether that's firsthand experience or second or third hand with the power of that empathy. They're so much more powerful. There's the quality of warriorship that comes out. What's possible in the weaponizing process with somebody that has earned the experience and has this motivational fuel, and that is being unlocked. Man, I'll take that over 1,000 scholars any day of the week. People that just want to learn. It's different. You know, like this whole entire process, it's different. I saw something today. I saw an ad popped up on one of my social medias, and it was just an ad for self-defense, a local self-defense company which was professing themselves to be the anti-martial art and its professional street protection, and they showed a clip of their training class, and it's a group class of 35, 40 people running around pylons and running it back and forth across the room, and then somebody holding oversized, like foam pads, and somebody pretending to kick them in the balls, and people falling down. And I'm not trying to make fun of anything. With everything that just happened in this spree, I'm just like, it's a business model. How are you training the individual to truly prepare themselves for one of the most intense, brutal, horrific experiences of one human being trying to murder them? And this is what the standard of training is. And I get it, but it's the business model. It's recreational. It's 7-Eleven self-defense. It's Circle K survival. Like it's a sweatshop mass producing parachutes. It's like the quality's not going to be there. I don't want to jump out of a plane with that shit. That's not how professionals train. And the reality is that it's easy to train them the way we train people the way we train special forces. Why don't you train? My neighbor's life is just as important. And people say, oh, well, but nobody, they want to recreate. Stop pandering. I don't know. Anyways, tangent. It's emotional, right? Because I look at these events, I do what I said. I have my event, and I swore never again. I connect with all of my clients that come in that have experienced stuff. I connect with every incident that I see. This is why I cannot watch violent movies. I cannot watch depictions of violence in movies and stuff, because to me it's not fake, it's real. So everything that I see, every murder you watch on TV, in a movie, is, I'm internalizing it and automatically thinking about the ripple. I'm thinking about the families and the ripple effects and how, like, it's too real, because that's my world. And I can't do it. I can't watch it. I can deal with real violence. I deal with people that have, attempted murders and violence, and I study it all day long, and I sleep fine. Matter of fact, I sleep so soundly at night because I am connected to the realities of violence, and I'm prepared for it, and that brings me certainty and peace. I watch violent movies, and I have nightmares for days and weeks, and it's so weird, yet it's fake. But because TV depicts it, movies depict it in such like, it's such a weird, I don't know, it's a different thing that it can easily overwhelm your system and desensitize you, and you just get into this again. It disassociates you, and I hate that feeling. So, anyways, I don't know. Anything else you guys want to add on this? This was a bit of a organic, just kind of conversation tonight, but I think and I hope that people find value in it, because I can feel more what I want to say than I can articulate it in my brain right now, because again, I'm in that process of, like, just deep empathy with what happened and what the victims are now going to go through, and the ripple effect, and how their lives are going to be for the foreseeable future, and they're irreparably and erratically altered. And I empathize with that. So I don't know. Is there anything else in your guys' end?
It's just it's having learned the process and used the process. I could say that for me, it's a deep and very powerful way to add, again, that emotional fuel, to connect with the realities of violence and stay rooted with that as well. And it's like, again, anybody listening and really understanding what we're talking about, like, either listen to it again, but there's a lot of value in this process that, it's, again, I'm kind of with you on it. It's like, well, I feel it more than I could articulate it.
Yeah.
Like what it's done for me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I just, like, how do you tell people? It's like, this is, there's so much juice that you're going to get out of the squeeze, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I'll leave it there too.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff here that, we could come back and sort of carry on this conversation and unpack a lot of different things. But, like, just thinking again about, like, just having that empathy and just trying to really own that, like, never again idea, and just thinking about sitting here thinking about the word empathy as you guys are talking, and it's just like, it just, I mean, it makes you a better person for sure, like, just all around. But also for me, like, when I think about, that level of empathy and trying to deepen that, and how does that help me as a protector, as a weaponized person? And, we have that saying of, like, well, I go 10. Like, when it comes to violence, like, on a violence scale, I go 10.
Yeah.
And it's like, where does that certainty come from? Well, it comes from this kind of empathy. It comes from this never again, like, never again will this happen. That's why I go 10.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it starts to support a lot of the other kind of beliefs that we have as weaponized protectors. So, yeah, I think this is a big one. That's just one thing that hit me. And I'm like, man, we could spend probably a whole podcast just talking about going 10, among a million other things I kind of thought of through the conversation. But yeah, I just wanted to add that one, but I think there's a lot.
Yeah. And sorry, we just got a comment. I'll throw it up here, but Peter's so good, just saying, fantastic information, guys. It's so important to acknowledge what is happening and not to bury our heads in the ground. There are things that we as quote unquote normal people can do to protect ourselves. And that is exactly what I want people to take from this conversation. And I'm just going to answer this ahead of any questions that are going to come in, because again, people would be like, why can't you, or why aren't you sharing what we can do. Like, what are some of the tools, the techniques, the strategies, the tactics? And let me just try to answer this as briefly as I can. There are strategies, there are tactics, there are tools, techniques, whatever you want to call them. There are, but it's strategy, tactics, and tools. But here's the thing: nothing works if it doesn't come from the mindset. It starts. You have to build warriorship and weaponizing people. The mind precedes the body. It starts with the core beliefs, and what we shared with you tonight is what will activate those core beliefs. There was a couple times over the course of this podcast, I think Brad said it, but go back and listen to it again. But there was moments in this podcast where each of us felt something, where our motivational fuel fucking ignited. And if you were listening to this and you heard those moments, if you felt nothing, then do nothing. You know what I mean? If you saw nothing, if you couldn't go into the theater of your mind and use empathy and build a bridge and put yourself in those people's situation and see it through their fucking eyes, not as a third party observer, like a fucking time traveler watching and studying history. So if you felt nothing, do nothing. If you saw nothing, then do nothing. Right? But if in those moments you felt something, like you felt that calling, that fucking desire, that's your motivational fuel. That's what has to unlock. If you don't have that, when some fucking guy comes flying out of the bush, or 5 guys, or 10 guys, or you're driving down the street and you see something happen, and if you didn't feel that, if that isn't unlocked, if you don't nurture that ember, if you don't know how to, kind of cultivate that into a fucking inferno, then what am I going to say to you? You take your knife out and defang his snake when he's rushing at this. Here, put your frame here on this. This is the choke point on the body, and leverage this and technically use this to destabilize him and all this stuff. All of that shit I said is true. I said it with the tone of like ridiculousness because it happens here first. You could have had some guy, some 68, 78, 98-year-old man who had some experience in his life that just was like, never fucking again. Our one-legged, one-armed, one-eyed, one-eared guy. And when that guy come flying out, he ain't quick enough to get over there to stop the stabbing. But as he's hobbling his ass over there, he's got fucking fire in his fucking veins. And he grabs a rock as best he can with his one good hand as he's trying to get balance. And he smashes that motherfucker in the head with every fucking thing he's got. And that stuns that fucking guy. And maybe that stopped the fatal blow. Maybe that allows somebody to get pressure on that guy's wounds so he doesn't fucking bleed out and gives him time for the ambulance to survive. Now, maybe that guy that hits him on the head with everything he fucking got, maybe he stumbles and falls after, and maybe he gets stabbed too. But in that moment, he's a fucking warrior. He's weaponized. He fucking, you know what I mean? He has no regrets because he wasn't a victim, and he taught that fucking predator, whether that predator walks away from that situation or not, he taught him something. There are people in this world, yes, that will hurt you if given an opportunity, but there are people in this world that will fucking hurt straight back at you if you try. And that's it. So when you have that, then we can talk technique. Then we can talk strategy. Then we can start to refine it and say, listen, get fucking good at this shit. Violence is about destruction. It's not hard to teach people how to fucking destroy the human body. That part's easy. But to get people to feel, to get people to even, what are we at? To sit and listen for 59 minutes, an hour. For most people these days, all they hear is people got 7 seconds, the attention span of a goldfish. Fuck those people. They can't pay attention long enough to be any use to anybody in a violent situation. So let them have their fucking surfing and go in 7 seconds. I don't give a fuck. We want people that want to go deep, that want to listen, because it's going to activate something inside of them. And then they're going to fucking train. They're going to become part of the lifestyle, part of the tribe. So, this is, I get passionate about that part of it because that's the fucking difference. Not running around pylons, running back and forth, kicking oversized pads. That's just a bunch of make work. Keep people busy. I'm punching, I'm elbowing, I'm learning self-defense. Fuck self-defense. It's violence. weaponized against fucking violence. The predatory criminal is a whole different animal. It's the game. That's the game you gotta prepare for. Sport and martial arts and fighting and altercations and all that bullshit that's different shit. Okay, so anyways, listen, my last thing is going to be this. I'll announce it here. It's something that I was thinking about doing for a long time, and I keep thinking I'm going to do it, and I keep putting it off. And this kind of really, today and the spree and feeling what I'm feeling, and now talking about it, it's 100% what I'm going to do. For 30 years, right, I've been weaponizing people. We're a premium professional training organization. Our doors are open to every single person. I don't give a shit what your age is, your gender is. I don't care what your occupation is. It doesn't make a difference to me. We train the individual. It's one-on-one coaching that is done through what we call our IPTPs, which is an intensive personal training program. So everything is one-on-one. You have to train the individual. We invest the time in the individual, and we weaponize them, because every single person that comes to us is, in our mindset, going to be in their righteous fight, the fight of their life. Innocent people depend on it. Their lives depend on it. So everything's one-on-one. I've been doing that for 30 years. What I'm going to do is something we've never done before, which is to, on our YouTube channel, which is where we're streaming to right now, is we have our podcast. I am going to add in a couple new playlists. And one of the new series that I'm going to be starting is called Weaponizing DIY. So just weaponizing do-it-yourself. I'm actually going to start putting out a series of mini workshops where I'm going to teach people how to do this process at home. How you can do it yourself. How you can, train in your fucking basement, train in your garage, train in your backyard, train in your living room. You can do the whole thing. I'm going to share this information with people publicly, I guess, because our whole mission is to help weaponize the world. My goal is every neighborhood, every place of business, every school, every office building, everywhere, there is at least one person who has weaponized their mind and body. Every senior's home, everywhere. And to really be able to do this, because again, we're training people one-on-one, not everybody's going to come to us and want us to do it with them and for them, which is what we do. I want people to have a resource to be able to go to it and just literally follow along, get the information, follow along, do it at home, and just weaponize themselves to make a difference in this world, to better prepare themselves for when those wolves show up someday, because that is what we need. So I am making a commitment to starting this. I'll probably have the first one. I'll post the first one, and maybe the next week I will get this. I will get motivated. I am motivated now. I will get this happening. And so please, if you're listening to this or watching this, follow us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's new. We're just starting to grow it. I think we only at this point have like 17 to 20 followers. But help us grow this. This is the movement. And it'll be absolutely for free. No sales, not trying to sell a course at the end of it. I'm just going to put the information out there in the mini workshop so that people can start weaponizing on their own and just start working this process and training in it. And, we're trying to do as much as we can with the podcast, but we need a more direct route where I can get on there and share with you guys how we're doing this and how you need to practice this at home. So that is it. So look for our Weaponizing DIY, and that'll be kicking off in the next little bit. And again, please share this with anybody that you think would be interested in it. Look forward to it. Look for it. Use it. Practice it. Train it. It'll be there for you. And that is our mission, is to help weaponize the world. So that's it. Brad, Dustin, thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate your insights and input into this conversation. I know we all feel it when these things happen. They happen far too often every day. And then they happen on a bit more of a magnitude like this, where the world wakes up to it a bit, or at least the community does. And it was important for us, I think, to try and take advantage of this to motivate people into weaponizing themselves and being more prepared. So that is it. All right, everybody. Until next time, please stay safe, stay weaponized, and we will chat again soon. Hey, thanks so much for listening. And listen, if you found this content valuable, here's 3 different ways that I can help you weaponize for free. First, Grab a free copy of my ebook, The Education of a Weaponized Man. To get your free copy today, head to ebook.awakentheprotectar.ca. Number 2, you can take a free workshop where you will discover the 10 insights violent criminals don't want you to know. To take this workshop, head to workshop.awakentheprotectar.ca. The third way is to head to my website and check out all of my Freeline programs that cover everything from mindset to strategies. To check us out, go to awakentheprotectar.ca. And finally, leave a 5-star review so that we can reach more good people like you who are ready to weaponize and rise regardless.